Yeah, about Monday. Let's get on the show because look, you think about France and you're just watching that clip there, and you might be forgiven if you think they've won the World Cup already because of the sheer quality they've got, right? Lots of the players who are in that team this year are the players who were the World Cup team for 2018, which they won. So there's a bit of a need for continuity in that regard. Talk to me about just the general overview of where you rank them. You think about Brazil and some of the favorites to win the World Cup. Brazil, you think about Spain. France have to be there, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. When you look at France, you get the feeling they are the only team going into this World Cup where you cannot really, on the surface, look at that team and say there's a considerable obvious weakness in this part of the pitch. I don't think they have got any weakness in terms of the quality they have at their disposal, and it's quite crazy because, I mean, you look at that squad, they've only gotten better, they've only gotten to be refreshed. You look at the quality of young players coming through, what they have already in experience in Griezmann, in Karim Benzema, and these are people who are playing at the peak of their playing powers. You just look like they're very scary, but history is away from France. When you want to go back to to what they've done in the past, winning the World Cup, not scoring a goal in 2002, winning the World Cup again in 2018, maybe the curse of that second tournament just to defend it hasn't quite sunk in here in terms of, the players knowing the magnitude of job they had to do at the World Cup. But I think France are a good squad. They're a really, really good squad. Certainly one of the favorites to win the World Cup. Will they win the World Cup? It remains to be seen, but surely one of the teams to compete for the World Cup.
I don't know if you know this, but France are one of the 4 European teams to have taken part in the inaugural World Cup back in 1930. 8 years on, they actually got eliminated on home soil in 1938. And you've got to say also, 15 appearances at the World Cup, only one of joint 6 teams to have made it to record appearances at the World Cup. So it tells you about the history and the know-how they have, going to World Cups. But the one of only 6 teams to have won the tournament on more than one occasion. What that tells you is that they go to every World Cup thinking, we have got to win the World Cup. So that's a minimum requirement. Yeah. But let's look at the teams in its detail. Now, you mentioned the no obvious weaknesses in the team. You look at the defense, stacked. Midfield, stacked. Attack, I mean, what can you say about Kylian Mbappe, Karim Benzema, and co? But the midfield option, I mentioned to you, the team that started this last World Cup are pretty much still in their prime there. But N'Golo Kante is one player who was very instrumental to them winning that World Cup. Add Paul Pogba as well to that mix. 2 players who have struggled with form and injury in the last 1 year thereabout. Matter of fact, Paul Pogba has just undergone surgery at Juventus, which might see him miss that World Cup. N'Golo Kante as well. We're hearing is, talking to Chelsea about a new contract. Hasn't quite played much this season already. He's missed 5 games for Chelsea this season. Do you have any convictions that France can get over that midfield dilemma? Because let's not forget, what's his name? The midfield pairing from Juventus. I keep forgetting his name. Rabiot is there. But they're not quite as strong without N'Golo Kante and Paul Pogba, isn't it? Matuidi is no longer in the team as well.
Exactly. Obviously, what N'Golo Kante does for the team, I know everybody knows this, is not new. It gives you legs in midfield, great ability to cover the ground. That's something they don't have. When you look at, obvious replacement, they don't have genuine legs, to run around the pitch. You talk about Matuidi from way back. He used to be the heart and soul of that midfield as well, alongside N'Golo Kante. But they've got really good young players coming through, and these are not particularly like for like. They've got Aurelien Chouameni coming through. Just started his Real Madrid career, and it looks like all things are going to plan. They've got Eduardo Camavinga as well, another Real Madrid product, who is really a good midfielder, but doesn't give them the legs that N'Golo Kante would do. You talk about Paul Pogba too, and that is a great physical attribute. He's got the great, close control skill, passing ability, the ability to strike the ball. One player that when he's on song is almost at par with everyone in his position, in his class, but those are 2 obvious quality that they will be missing if they do not have them available for them at the World Cup. But I don't think Deschamps will complain that much, for the reason that you can have Chouameni come in, you can have Rabiot coming in midfield. You can have even a young Guendouzi coming. They've got players in that midfield position where can offer real quality, maybe not the same as N'Golo Kante and Pogba. But the one thing for France, which I would say is a great strength for them, is France are not a one-man team. They're not a team where if you pick one person out, a couple of players out, they struggle. There's a team that are built with cohesion and with unity and great team spirit.
Well, of course, France will be looking to go one better than the Euros, which we saw lots of problems begin to evolve, especially in the midfield area, where just not just on the pitch as well, but also off the pitch. Problems with Adrien Rabiot and Paul Pogba. Hopefully, that doesn't raise its head again. We also saw problems with the striking department. So it's one thing to have quality, in terms of playing personnel, but with that kind of quality comes big personalities as well, and the egos in the dressing room can become a bit of a problem. I mean, with all the stories around Kylian Mbappe, Paul Pogba, the police issues there. We saw an issue with Olivier Giroud as well at the last Euros. There was a clear, butting of heads there. Karim Benzema, who has just been reintegrated back into the French national team, he would want to win something since he's just come back, right? How do you manage those personalities? And is there a chance that what we saw at the Euros, the disunity, could raise its head again at the World Cup?
People, football fans never quite understand, when you talk about disunity off the pitch, you talk about the fact that players are not quite in sync, the disagreements, the fisticuffs here and there, it affects the unity of the team, it affects how the team performs on the pitch, and we saw that clearly at last Euros. But obviously, you've got Didier Deschamps. What you want in a manager is what he has, the ability to be that calming effect, that stability in that dressing room. And I don't think it would be a big issue because in Didier Deschamps, you've got a man who knows what he's doing. He's been there and done that, won the World Cup as a player, won the World Cup as a coach. Obviously, that counts for something. He would have the greatest respect of his players in that dressing room, and he should be able to sort things out. But in the end, it could be a conundrum. In the end, the manager would sit down and say, what are the losses we can take? We'll have a player who's a real division in the dressing room. Because you talk about Kylian Mbappe, and from what we hear, he's got a really go about him. He's got a real personality about him. Are the team going to accept that he wants to have things his own way? We've got bigger egos in the dressing. Benzema, obviously, clearly favourite for the Ballon d'Or this year. These are bigger players who would be very instrumental to what France do this season. But there has to be that unity of purpose in that dressing room, and you would feel that Didier Deschamps should be able to control everything happening around there.
Well, you get the sense that France will clearly be one of the major forces. Talk to me about predictions for France. Look, the Euros was a shambles, and they would clearly know that they need to raise their levels a couple notches higher. How far do you think they go at the World Cup? Of course, do you think they make it out of the group stage there?
Yeah, of course, so 100%. I would think that last four would be minimum requirement from the players. They would demand from themselves, that level that everyone expects that they need to go to the World Cup and and perform. Like I said, winning the World Cup last time in 1998 and not making it out of the group in the first round in the next tournament, getting to the World Cup final in 2006, not making it out of the group in 2010. They will know this. They will know that they've got a lot riding on that, and they'll probably go in there. Probably last four should be minimum requirement.
Semi-finals clearly.